Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Tuesday night. So we're here to recap episode 5 and 6 of Your Honor. And as always, I'm back and joined by my fabulous co-host, Shamus Fillmore. Shamus, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Good. Obviously you guys are moving back to Orange midnight this evening. I'm really hoping for Friday. I've tried to keep a positive attitude. I know you probably hear that coming from me, and you're probably saying I'm lying. But, I'm trying to new year, new me, or whatever those stupid social media sayings are.
So,
Try
so
to
tell
stay
me,
positive, and hopefully Friday I can go back to the gym.
so tell me this. You're the one person I always say, oh, like, doesn't that make you excited? Or are you excited for this? And you always tell me I don't get excited.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a little bit of excitement thinking about getting back to the gym, even if it is Friday or whatever we go
I'll
back?
say this: the second I can go back, I will get I'll get a feeling of something. I don't know if it's excitement, because I really don't know what excited feels like.
Right? Okay.
It feels like a cop-out answer, but
Just a relief, just a
yeah,
full-on relief
exactly.
to
It might
go back.
be when I get there, it's definitely going to be like, wow, I'm here. So maybe that is excitement. I don't know.
How many days has it been? Like since we went to
Week.
haven't you
So
been
yeah,
away? A week.
last Tuesday when we podcasted was when it started. So it's been a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hang in there, brother.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. And maybe next week when I'll be back, I'll be like telling you guys, all you listeners, wow, I got excited for one of the first times in my life. This will be a groundbreaking experience for me. So but yeah, we're back tonight to talk about Your Honor episode 5 and 6. Um yeah, the episodes are good. Seamus, as you know, I'm a very tough critic. I've been told I'm too tough for critics sometimes. But episodes 5, I really enjoyed. I thought the character development was very strong. Where the writers took it, I thought was strong. A slight thing I wouldn't have done, but episode 6 for me was really hard to follow. And maybe you can help me tonight, but I just found they went in too many directions too quickly for me.
Okay, so it just moved along. You thought it could have spanned maybe an episode and a half longer than it actually did. Is that what
Yeah,
you're?
like we'll talk about what happens at the end of episode 5, but I think they just could have went with that storyline, and I don't think they needed the whole wraparound of what happens around it. They could have just used that, because that was way more interesting to me. Obviously, what happens with the Baxters, and we'll
Yeah.
talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. We'll get right into it.
So, yeah, just getting into it. End of episode 4, if you guys remember, Kofi Jones was murdered in jail. But Gina Baxter, the wife of Jimmy, wasn't satisfied with that. She wanted more than just that little pound of flesh. And Kofi has a family. We see Lee and the judge go to his mother's house. They have 2 or 3 children, and they really focus, the writers, on his brother Eugene, who kind of resembles an offensive lineman in the NFL. He's a little guy, but he's a big kid already. And at the end of episode 4, the house, he's walking home with like a big gulp, and he sees his house just explode. It wasn't just a gas leak. That's what they were saying. The cops. It was murder, and we learn at the beginning of the episode, Seamus, that his whole family was killed in the explosion, including his mother and all his siblings.
Yeah, it's a pretty gut wrenching scene. He's walking up the street. They have, I wouldn't say a parade, but they have men dressed up and they're holding the caskets of his family, and he walks in front. He's got a T-shirt on with all his family members on it with all their names, and they walk right by the house, and he kind of just stops and stares at the house for quite a while, and it is really gutless to think. And I mean, if you're the Baxter family, like, such a gutless move to kick a dead horse, in the sense like this family had really no association what was going on, or it they still think it's payback for what happened a year ago to from what Carlo did to one of the Desire members, right? So they have no idea of the true nature behind everything. So this just felt like overkill, even if it was a hit on by the Desire gang.
Yeah, They had got Kofi was dead. The family kind of accepted it. And Desire was telling them, "We got you for life. You're fine." But yeah, the Baxters just we saw Jimmy Baxter become the person that we think he is, the mob boss, the guy who has no heart, and he kills the whole family, which leaves Eugene. And like you said, they're walking through the streets and they're basically having a New Orleans funeral where they have the caskets, but then they go back and have a big reception type area. And Eugene is basically recruited by this, which was funny for me, a strong black woman to join Desire, and it presented her really as the cult leader in this gang.
Yeah, so I jotted down. It took me a little while to find out. Her name's Big Mo, I guess, and the son is called Little Mo, which ironically enough is kind of funny. It kind of foreshadowed that there maybe
Yeah.
was someone bigger, or someone, I shouldn't say bigger, someone looking over the whole Desire gang other than this one guy, because throughout the first four episodes, we only know this guy is the head of this leader, this group. And we really see a connection, or kind of a connection, start between Big Mo and Eugene,
Mm-hmm.
because she gives a pretty personal story about her mother also dying, and she said that no one was there, or no one came for her mother at all those times. So that was her reasoning for paying for the funeral and the service for Kofi's and Eugene's family.
Yeah, so she's kind of preying on his emotions.
Yeah.
They're bonding slightly, but he's Eugene. For a young kid, he's very aware. I found Shay. He um, he knows that what the Desire is not necessarily a great place to be,
Mhm.
but he really has no options. I mean, he has no family, he has no money, he doesn't have a home. So he's basically backed into a corner where he has to accept Desire or he's on the street.
Yeah, exactly.
So that keeps happening. She actually gets up from her chair. They're sitting on the porch. She leaves him a stack of cash, which little Mo had given him before. And he brings it back to her. He didn't do that the first time. He brings it back to her and he says, "I think you forgot this." And then he kind of says, "Was this a test?"
Yeah.
And she kind of smiles, and I think she got what she wanted. She was starting to see that, Eugene was going to be a trustworthy asset for her.
Yeah, she wants loyal members for her crew, right? Not people that she can't trust.
Right. So that's happening. Eugene's kind of going through the motions. He looks like he's going to join Desire. At this time, the judge is in court. He kind of probably thinks the situation's over, right? Because Kofi's dead. They're kind of home free.
Yeah.
But he's in court. He's talking to this guy who's a recovering alcoholic, and has a child that he's trying to see and get a job to support. And he hears this phone going off, and he says, like, who's got their phone on? He's calling out the whole court. But then he realizes that it's in his desk drawer. So he opens it up, and it's a burner that was planted there for him. And I wrote down what it says: "I know your son did it," in one of the text messages. And then he gets sent a picture of his house, and he also gets a text that says $222,000. So we have no clue who this guy is, but he clearly knows that Adam killed Rocco Baxter.
The real killer. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, you're totally right. Like, if you're Michael, you probably think you have 90% of this in your rearview mirror, because, I mean, the
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 car's
kill
gone.
well, the killer, the so-called killer, like, Kofi, is dead. The car is eliminated, and it's closed case, right? But
Yep.
obviously, he goes into panic mode for sure. It's also worth noting that this is the second time that we've seen in the show that Michael sides with the defendant. Same with Kofi's mother in the first episode, where he helped her out by calling out the corrupt cop
Yeah.
for doing the same thing. And the same for this case. He helps out the guy instead of going to jail. He just basically says, make sure you're in your AA meetings every day.
Right. Yeah, and that's interesting to me that he is, because so far his character is just of a liar. So I don't
Yeah,
know if he does that to compensate for his
that's true.
faults,
Yeah,
or like, because for having such a high moral compass in his head, his actions show completely otherwise.
yeah, that's a great point.
So, like you said, he panics. He leaves the courtroom. He doesn't really give a good explanation. He drives home uh, because he was sent a picture of his house. So he's freaking out. Drives home. Nobody's there, but he realizes that their dog, Django, who's kind of like, I'd say he's a German Shepherd, an older dog, maybe a yellow lab, but he realizes the dog's been having seizures. It's been urinating on the floor, and Adam didn't give the dog his medication. So on top of getting blackmailed here, he's also in a panic because his dog could be dying here.
Yeah, obviously it's a dog with a lot of health issues. You kind of get that sense right away.
Mm-hmm.
And he does he does what anyone would do, and kind of goes into panic dad mode, and gets the dog into the car, but not before the neighbor comes over and tells Michael that someone was at the house. It looked like someone was maybe trying to get in or whatnot, and that I don't know, Doug. Does she say that it was a green Toyota?
Yeah, she says the brand of the car, and then she said it was a white male. And he he says okay, but he doesn't really sound too worried about it. But it was clearly big information because he needs to know that he's clearly worried, but he's also rushing because he's got to get the dog to the vet.
Yeah.
And but he's in a state of panic here, knowing, and at the same time he's calling Adam and he can't get a hold of him.
Yeah, frig. And it just pisses me off because, I mean, for one, it's Adam's responsibility to give the dog his medication.
Right.
So clearly that went over Adam's head. And but at the same time, like at a time like this, you think that you want to be as close as ever, and it pans to Adam where he's just sitting in a coffee shop, and he just blatantly leaves the call.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's sitting, he sees the phone call, he sees it's his dad, and he just presses the ignore button.
Mhm.
And he's prepping for the NYU and New York University interview for admission, his admission interview. This is where it gets interesting. He's sitting there at the coffee shop, and he's approached by this young girl who happens to be Rocco Baxter's sister, Fia. Um, and I don't think they knew each other before, maybe just by happenstance they knew each other, but she was clearly interested in him. She's a very forthright person. She's not afraid to jump into things. So she sits down with him, and they start to bond rather quickly. We learn that, in fact, that Adam's mother was murdered. We didn't really know that before. We kind of had a hint of it, but Adam reveals it. They talk about going to NYU, and it's a really it's a flirtatious scene.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't know. I can't tell if it's guilt or just narcissism by Adam by trying to connect. I mean, I think it's totally staged that he's there, and then just so happens to start talking to her, and they kind of bond over grief. Adam's mother, and then of course Fia with her brother, but and they do it in a way that's, I would say, almost humorous. They're almost like not laughing about it, but they're both laughing at the fact that it's a thing, I guess, that they're both connecting through this way.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, she talks about Rocco's death like it's really like it's just like a blip in her life. Like it wasn't really a big deal to her. I'm sure it was, but she doesn't present herself like she's very, she's grieving or she's
Mhm.
upset. And he kind of presents the same attitude, because I don't know if he's just mirroring her because maybe that's his strategy, but he learns quickly it's Rocco's sister, and he does not shy away from the relationship, which is another interesting part of Adam to me.
Yeah, and I mean, as a viewer, you're just watching this like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like getting yourself deeper into this. when, you should be doing everything you can to kind of put it behind you and, maybe move on with your life. But
Mhm.
obviously that's not the case. And we find that out more in this episode and the next.
Yeah. So the judge brings the dog to the vet. They're dealing with him. He's there for a while. He tries to call Adam multiple times to no avail. He decides to leave because he's got to go back to the courthouse. And he gets in. This is interesting. This is another judge scene where I think it just shows you his true character. He gets in the elevator, and these two young kids are talking. They're prepping for court, and they're talking about kind of their strategy and how they're going to get away with this. And the judge pipes in. Did any of your relatives have cancer? And the boy says, "Yeah, my aunt did." And he says, "Well, who's the judge?" And he says his name. He says, "Oh, okay. Well, bring up that your aunt had cancer because his wife died of breast cancer. That'll help you." And it's really disgusting and preying on this guy's deceased wife. But then he adds in at the end, "Can you guys help me track a burner phone?" So he saw these two young millennials and he basically said, "Okay, I can use them to get what I want. Help me help you."
Yeah, it's almost become a custom now to see him in these scenes where he's providing some expertise for what he does for a living, and who he works with clearly to get what he wants. And you know he might have, for all we know, he might have just lied to them. We don't actually see the actual result, but he could have lied to these two kids just to get this information on how how he can track this burner phone.
Right. So they help him track it. It kind of pinpoints different parts where it could be. And it's at this time he gets a text that says to meet him at the corner of Bourbon Street and to bring the cash. So at this point, Judge has to scramble and get cash to bring to this guy, or he's going to leak the information about Adam and he'll go to jail.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's panic mode for Michael because and I mean, at this time we don't know really who it is, so it's kind of going through the traces. We know that the neighbor said it was a white male, but other than that we really don't know a ton of information on who it could be. And I mean, if it was, you'd think if it was the Baxter family, there's no real sense in
No,
going over this. I mean, he'd just be dead, right? Like, they don't want money, they have tons of money.
no, they're
Maybe it's a smaller gang like Desire.
no,
I
they're
was gonna
like I
say, if it's
said,
maybe a smaller
they're
gang like
wealthy beyond
Desire.
their years. So
Yeah, so it's not them. You can kind of almost rule out them, but the other, like the Desire gang, you think maybe they would have something to do with it. But when you see that it's a white male, I mean, it kind of brings up question marks on who it could be.
right. So he's gonna go to the bank. We'll talk about that later. But while this is happening, Lee, the lawyer, obviously connected with Michael, doesn't want to give up on the case. She's still Kofi's lawyer. She's said that a bunch of times in the episode. And she goes to this corner where Desire is selling drugs, and Eugene's there. And he's trying to sell her stuff. And she says, "Well, I was Kofi's lawyer. Can I have lunch with you?" So he goes to lunch with her. It seems to be going okay. But then little Mo comes in and he's very forthright. He basically threatens Lee and says, "Get off our turf, or bad things are going to happen here to you."
Yeah, I mean, it's his way of kind of trying to stop this connection of anyone digging up what really happened to Kofi, right?
No, exactly. So she's trying to bury it, but while she's leaving, actually Eugene comes up to her and he gives her a useful piece of information that him and Kofi didn't have the same father, and that Kofi's father is still living, and that he kind of gives him the address and where you can find him.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is Eugene's way of showing that he actually cares. cares about what happened to Kofi and cares about his family, even though they're not with him anymore.
Right.
And at the same time, I thought Eugene's character takes a huge flip, because he's this really quiet kid in the beginning of this episode, and he goes from that to, walking up to random cars and, slinging drugs like the other people working the corners are.
No, exactly. He piped up for the first time, and he showed a backbone that he's not completely controlled by desire yet. He knows that it's his best option, but it's a terrible option. So he's going to do what he has to do. But at the same time, during the explosion, the Baxters searched Kofi's home, and we didn't really know. This was another scene that I thought was not the perfectly put together, but they went to Kofi's house and they found another phone or a recording, and it's not of the original 911 call. They realized there was a second 911 call at the gas station where Adam was, and that the 911 operator had called him back. So this was a huge development for the Baxters, because they could then pinpoint where that phone was, and they tracked it to the gas station.
Yeah, and I think it's the corrupt cop that brings them this extra information that they didn't have before.
Right.
And they, I think the mother wants to listen to this video because she wants some, I don't know if it's, what's the word I'm looking for, Juggy? When you want not clarification, but
I think she just wants
when you want something closed, like closure. Yeah, she wants closure on what happened to her son, and she wants to hear this video, maybe of him taking his last breath. But obviously, it's not the right call. And yeah, they learned about this call, which, like you said, is huge, because the Baxters now have this extra information to go ahead and find out where this gas station is, right?
No, exactly. So yeah, so like you said, she's on the call and she's listening, and Jimmy's there, and he says, no, this isn't it. And they listen to it 2-3 times before he finally says, oh wait, this is it, but it's at a different location. So they go to the gas station where the judge went and bribed the idiot gas station attendant with a sob story about his cheating wife. And they get there, and they get there, and the attendant's, none the wiser. He's still the same guy. And he says, yeah, this, and of course on his counter is the paper with the judge's picture and Kofi. And he says, well, this guy was here a couple weeks ago. And he points out the picture, and he says, Dylan Thomas, which was his alias. And he says, yeah, well, he came in just trying to find out who was cheating on his wife. And the Baxters look at the picture, and they find out, well, they don't know right away, but they know who this guy is. They know he's the judge. And they ask if they can see the video. They know it's deleted. And this was it. They knew they think they know who the culprit is. They think it's the judge. Of course, we know it's Adam, but the Baxters are convinced that Judge is the murderer of Rocco.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes it even more guilty that he himself goes and cleans up,
right,
deleting that video, so it makes it look like he's cleaning up his own mess and not his son's,
mm-hmm.
which is also funny. So at this time, it's funny now that we know the Baxters know who it is, or at least who that Kofi did not do it, and to see the rest of the episode that Michael struggles to kind of clean up this mess with this burner phone, and who's really trying to bribe him. It's all really for nothing, because I mean, like, it's kind of out now. Like, the person you didn't want to find out now knows that you basically covered all this up and almost got away with it.
Right. So they find out, but at the same time, the judge goes to a bank, and he asks to get out $222,000 in the same day. And the bank is, I mean, you work in finances. This doesn't happen. You go in there
No
asking for
one.
that amount of money. I mean, you're getting arrested.
Yeah, this is. I mean, the IRA is going to automatically put you on a big old flag, and you're just ruined after this. No one ever just takes out 200K like it's like the snap of their fingers. I don't care what you say, and if you were the guy wanting the money, reasonably, you probably give them a little bit more than 24 hours, because that's just not enough sufficient time for that kind of transaction.
Right. So he went that day and he's like, I need it now. Like, I'm not leaving without it. And he's like, it's not a 20-minute transaction. So the guy
Yeah,
leaves the room, comes back and says, yeah, we need a 48-hour notice.
yeah,
And basically says, you're going to be red flagged if you come back and take this money. So
yeah.
Judge is forced to leave. He's got some money, I think, with him, and he goes to the street. But on Bourbon Street, first of all, the guy who wants to meet at Bourbon Street's an idiot. I've never been to New Orleans, but I've heard of Bourbon Street, and I know it's pretty rocking. So
Yeah.
they go there. There's like this huge party, and
It's Mardi
Judge,
Gras out there.
yeah, look like it. He gets a call. His phone's knocked down, and the judge really he was sick of it, and he told the guy, "You're bluffing. You're not gonna have the balls to go through with it, and you don't have any evidence anyway. So screw you." And he hangs up the phone. And moments after, the judge has texted a picture of Adam's license plate.
It's a funny scene, because the whole time you're watching this episode, you're like, who really could it be? And like you said, it's the license plate. It's the guy that was behind him at the gas station, who was giving him a hard time because Adam was fidgeting around, and obviously was still pretty, I guess, starstruck, or maybe just shocked, I guess, of what happened. And this guy, this is a flaw that I maybe see. Who in the right mind would take a picture of just some random person in front of you at the gas station? But the only thing I thought of was maybe if he saw the blood on Adam's shirt and he thought maybe there's something suspicious. But I mean, even then I think it was just rare.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done it. I've never just taken a picture of somebody's license plate like for no reason. I mean, if you're being followed or something, that's another. But he was just taking a little longer to pump gas. I mean, that's not a reason to suspect somebody of doing something terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's episode 5. I thought it was an interesting episode. That brings us to episode 6. And yeah, this is my least favorite so far by a country mile. And what I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, and just to loop you in, Shay, the Baxters finding out was an interesting storyline. That was going to be interesting, right? Like, they are this scary family. They know they're going to do whatever it takes. They're probably going to try to kill the judge because that's just their MO. We've seen them kill Kofi's family already.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think they needed this blackmail plot because it only muddied the waters more. And as we find out in the end of this episode who was the blackmailer, it makes less and less sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so okay, okay, yes, I see what you mean. So by this point, you don't. Yeah, okay, but I guess there's a lot going on, and the whole jumping around to it doesn't make a lot of sense either. Throughout the episode, we see the Baxters basically follow the judge just around the whole time, kind of as he makes his stops and as he goes around. And then at the end, we see the probably the most opposed part where they kind of confront him, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I can see what you mean. It didn't make a lot of sense for them to kind of hop skiddly down around it. Like, if they were a real mob family, they probably would have just got on with it probably as soon as they knew.
Yeah, that, and I just didn't need a blackmail story. I didn't find it interesting. I just found it was too confusing. And
so if they just took that out entirely, you think that it would have been a much better episode or series?
yeah, I still think the episode probably wouldn't have been great.
Yeah,
I didn't think the episode was that good, but I just found that whole side of it wasn't compelling to me. And when you find out who was the blackmailer, you have no connection to this character. So he's
know.
kind of like, who is this guy? Like, he's some loser. Like, okay, who takes pictures of people at gas stations? Like, I I wasn't connected to it, and I found it a little more confusing than it had to be.
Maybe just filler, if anything. Maybe they didn't have enough to get through
That very
their.
well could be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah, other if that wasn't part of the episode, it would have been thin for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. We'll talk about that again when our opinions on it. But it starts. The episode starts with the judge. He's looking at a photo of Adam's car, and he's trying to. I found in the picture shade, you can't make out the full license plate. It's kind of shaded a little bit, so I don't know if he could have used that as a defense, but he's looking at it, and then he's having lunch with Nancy Costello and the police detective. He tells her, this is the judge again. He tells her another fake sob story about a case he's doing, and
Mhm.
how these and he's about how about these four guys, and about how there could be these people, and he gives these details about what could be happening, and it's kind of this elaborate story. But
Well, I think it kind of connects with Nancy a little bit, because I think maybe she either went through it herself, but I think the story kind of goes along the lines of a guy maybe abusing his partner,
Mhm.
and the partner, I think, retaliates, and the partner goes to jail, but the guy who was doing the abusing the whole time does not. And I think he's like, yeah, I really kind of want to get this son of a bitch. Like, he's, you know, and I don't know if it, connects with her in a way. Maybe she has a background where she was abused or in some manner, but yeah. So I don't know if he was kind of pulling on those strings. I mean, she's a cop, so she sees that kind of stuff probably every day or every
Mhm.
other day. So I thought maybe that was kind of the angle he was going at, but yeah, and it's just like when he did it with the guy at the bar, at the
Yeah.
gas station. It was just making up a story to kind of get what he wants, kind of like a, so sorry for me kind of tale.
Right. So she, like you said, she buys into a sob story, and she says she finds four names. At first, she's not showing him the computer. None of them have priors, but he's like, wow, that's interesting. Could I have them? And she goes, well, technically, I'm not legally allowed to do this. But she says, I got to go to the bathroom. So she leaves. He gets the four names, writes them down, and then he starts his investigation. Um, and really, what he does is he starts investigating their properties. He starts taking pictures of their cars, where their homes are, and he becomes like a little secret detective himself.
Yellow PI.
Yeah, Magnum. He did have a ball hat on, no
Yeah,
mustache.
exact. Yeah. Oh no, he was doing his best. He's just doing his best PI part, I guess.
Yeah, so he's on the prowl, but during this time, Jimmy Baxter goes to the Disiato house. And I don't know about you, but I was worried when he first walked in, because Django comes down the stairs and goes right to him. And I thought he was going to kill the dog. Did you?
Yeah, that's your first thought right away. Like, you already see this guy, he abuses animals like crazy, clearly with that bird scene. But yeah, I mean, that's the first thing. And I mean, it's funny. Well, the conversation he has with his daughter later on is kind of funny. But yeah, no, it's kind of ironic. Like, you just associate this guy with being a murderous guy, and he kind of like just pets down and starts playing with the dog, and it's just comical almost.
Yeah. So in the kitchen, they have pictures of like Adam, of the judge, of his wife. He goes over and flips one of the pictures, so it's facing the opposite way. So clearly somebody had tampered with it. Then he goes upstairs and he goes to Adam's room, and he sees his camera, and he takes a picture. So takes a picture, prints it, takes it with him. Then he goes to the judge's bathroom, and he takes a piss, and he leaves pee on the toilet seat, does not wipe it off. And we don't know this till later, but he actually leaves the pitcher on the pillow. So he's doing little subtle things the whole time he's there just to set a little warning that somebody was here.
Yeah, this house is not safe to be in. This
No.
twice in 2 episodes that it's got broken into. I mean, it's time to get some better system or better neighbors at least. I mean, this entire time people are just kind of walking to your home and your neighbors are just like, oh, it's just a Disiato family just doing their thing.
Maybe that's why Dawson was always locking our door and Freddie.
Yeah, well, I mean, people sometimes walk in apartments they're not supposed to. I mean, we know we have 3 friends that were in the same apartment building, and they had a strange visitor in the middle of the night, and it happens.
Right. So yeah, maybe we were wrong all these years. I don't know. I still think we were right though. I don't like to admit I'm wrong. So who knows? But so yeah, he goes through there. He goes through the house, does that, leaves. At this time, Adam and Fia, again, they're connecting, but they're both fucking weird people. They go to this abandoned amusement park. It looked abandoned anyway because it was all rusty, and
It was.
they sit in this, like, if you think of the amusement park and like the teacup little ride, or like in one of those cars that used to spin around.
Mm-hmm.
They sit in that, and they start sharing stories about his mother, and then she talks about Rocco and how she was wearing his favorite shirt, and like you said before, they're bonding over their grief, and they both just let out this scream at the same time. But it's not a sad scream. It's like they're just connecting. It's a weird connection, but they're starting to get closer.
Yeah, you see their relationship develop quite a bit, and this is one of the first things I thought about. Her being part of the family. Do you think that this helps? This maybe comes in a factor later on in the series and helps Adam and Michael out?
Yeah, I think probably. Maybe she'll turn out to be this really dangerous character, and she'll be like her dad, because I think she's more like her dad than like her mom, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's a bit more level-headed, but she says later on to her father that she really cares for Adam, and she starts to show it. I mean, she has real feelings for him already.
Yeah, fair enough.
But maybe that her potential love for him will blind her, and maybe she won't believe it if she finds out that the judge did it, or potentially Adam did it, that she'll fight on their behalf.
I also thought about this. I don't know what your thoughts on this are, but and she's not in this episode or the episode we talked about just right before. Franny,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their relationship, is that now on the rocks? Like, what's the deal there? And now that Franny knows what really happened, does it come back to haunt Adam and bites him on the ass for telling her?
Yeah, I think they have to bring that back, because otherwise, why have him having sex with his teacher? Because it really wouldn't do anything to the plot,
Feels like a waste. Yeah,
It would just
exactly.
be a waste. Like it would be a footnote that nobody would remember. So that something has to happen there, because otherwise it's a nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah, that was mine of first thought after that too. Like, they're building this relationship here. He's building this relationship with Fia, but clearly he already kind of had something going with his teacher already. So
Yeah,
that's just interesting. We'll see.
For a fucking weirdo, he's doing all right in the women department.
And for people who aren't watching the show, but maybe just kind of tune in to hear me and Juggy's glorious voices, this has got to be the most awkward kid I've ever seen in my life. He, like, everything he does just screams like, please stop. Like, it's awful.
He kind of, it's gonna be bad. I don't know if I should say this. He screams like school shooter.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Kind of like, kind of stays to himself, real quiet, just into his poems, into his literature, kind of not really worried about too much else.
Yeah, no friends.
Yeah, he's got his one friend that he tried to beat up, so
yeah.
He's got nobody now.
Yeah, it's not going well. It's going better for Adam than it should, but because he should be behind bars dead, but he's hooking up with the with the kid he killed with the kid he killed's sister. So
Yeah.
he's having a time. But meanwhile, the storyline that I hate, the judge is still trying to figure out where people are, and one of the addresses is this apartment building, and to get up there, he brings these bag of groceries and says he works for a Goodwill, and this is what he lives for, and another one of this lies. And he goes upstairs, and the old man is a guy with dementia. He's got dementia or Alzheimer's, and he doesn't know who the hell, he's just spewing out names. He thinks he's, uh, he thinks he's his sibling or something, and they're talking to each other. And, the one interesting part was the judge. He never really talks about his feelings to people. And he kind of broke down in front of the old man and talked about, his son and him not having a great relationship with him and his late wife. And he says, we're in so much shit here. And he talks about the blackmail. And I think that was important for the judge to do that.
Yeah, you're right. It's his first time that really he shows weakness to anybody, and why not do it to somebody that's probably not going to remember? I mean, that was my thinking behind the whole thing. Like, this is someone he's going to meet, he's going to sell, he's going to tell a sob story to, but that person's not going to remember. It's just a way for him to get it off his chest. And I mean, we find out later that this guy is this older man. And he doesn't have a great relationship with his son. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so, like, for the writers to put that in there, like how he maybe sees this older man later in life who has an awful relationship with his son, maybe makes Michael reflect a little bit on what he's been doing and how he's been raising his own child.
Yeah, no, very good point. Makes him look in the mirror and look at himself more closely. And like you said, the old man talks about his son being a bad egg, and this kind of intrigues Michael because he obviously knows this old man with dementia is not the guy blackmailing him.
Right.
And he says, well, we got into a lot of trouble as a kid, and it was basically at this point that Michael found out this is who's blackmailing me. Like this, he's had enough priors that he said, this is him. Like, this is the guy. Like, it all points to him. It has to be him. And he's going to take the old man for a walk, but he realizes he gets a picture from this man. And we find out that the son's name is Trevor, and he's actually an Uber driver.
Trevor.
One of those companies.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, is there anything that happens between now and his little run / vigilante move that he pulls on Trevor? Like, does anything happen? I think at one point
the redhead that works for the Baxters, he was at the assisted living facility. Yeah.
Oh yes, right. Yeah, which makes me worried that, like, maybe they'll just take out this old man who really has nothing,
Yeah, he's an innocent bystander
with it. Yeah, but he might just get taken out because Michael went to go visit him. I think it's worth noting also. I don't know if we caught it in the last episode, and I don't know if it was mentioned, but Carlo is out of prison.
Right. Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Jamie and Gina's eldest son, and it's kind of a big scene where he kind of returns home, gives his family a hug. We see a little tension between Fia and Carlo because obviously Fia feels a different way than maybe the rest of the family about their affairs, but so it's just kind of funny to see. And we see Carlo kind of between this episode and the last, he seems like he's kind of getting into the drug business with Desire Gang, and it looks like he's going behind his father's back. It doesn't look like he's letting his father a whole lot in on this. But yeah, it's just something to know for later. And I also think there's a scene where maybe him and another guy are moving product to the basement of one of their hotels or maybe a restaurant, and their mother catches them, and their mother kind of gives them like okay, just be careful, I didn't see what you were doing, and kind of just goes away. She looks like she's managing the restaurant or something. So
Carlo is definitely going rogue already.
Yeah.
And
trying to make a point to his father, right?
Right. And what he doesn't know is that Lee, she went to see Kofi's father. It didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
So she decides to go to the prison and talk to his cellmates and his friends, Kofi's friends in prison. And again, she's not getting anywhere. But she finds this one inmate who she kind of spoke to him. She said, he's going to die for nothing. Like, would you really want to die for nothing? He's got one brother. Like, let's finish this. And he reluctantly tells her, do you know where Kofi went the night of his murder? And he says, yes, I do. And she says, well, where'd he go? And he said he went to a white boy's cell. And she says, do you know the name of the cell of the inmate? And he goes, yes, it was Carlo Baxter.
Yeah.
So really, with this testimony and with that, she has enough to put him on trial for murder again.
Yeah. So this comes more into play. We'll say this afterwards, but obviously it's huge, and it just shows like the judge, he did everything to try and shoo this under, but his own guilt and feeling bad for Kofi kind of is coming back to bite him in the ass, in the sense, because once this trial gets underway, like more evidence about the hit and run and everything kind of has to be brought right back up.
Exactly. So yeah, that's a big scene. Before, you mentioned he goes for his run with the Uber driver. We actually see that Fia and Adam are driving home, but the Baxters are watching the house, the Disiato house, and they're about to storm the house. But they don't, for whatever reason, because I think Adam's coming home. I think they clearly think the judge did it, and I think they want to kill the judge without involving Adam. I think I kind of took that from that scene, that he didn't. Let's go kill the judge, but maybe his kid doesn't have to die for this.
Yeah.
And they don't see Fia though. That would have been bad. So they don't see.
I kind.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I couldn't tell if maybe like if that was an intentional miss, or maybe that it was like maybe they did see her. So and I was kind of on the same page too, that she wasn't seen, but because when Fia and Jimmy Baxter kind of talk in private,
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really seem like he's kind of like deceiving or like kind of mad about things. So I'm like, okay, maybe she really maybe he really didn't see her when she was dropping Adam off that night.
Right. So yeah, I don't think he knew. I don't think he knows, but we don't know 100% yet. But so they kind of share a big smooch in the car. He goes in. His dad, Judge, starts talking to him about his mother and kind of NYU and just father-son crap. But he also tells Adam, when I call, you answer from now on. Like, enough of this. Like, we got to be on the same page. And he also says it's a good idea for him to leave New Orleans to go to NYU, and he's really, encouraging that. But like you said, the Baxters, Thea and Jimmy, have shared this really intimate moment where they're laying there. They clearly have a strong bond. They both say they love each other. Jimmy makes this crack about wanting to buy a dog after seeing Django, and that's kind of funny. And then interesting for me, she tells him right away that she's seeing a guy, and they've only really been together twice. I know myself, I would not be telling my parents after 2 times, but that's just me.
Well, Juggy, I will say one thing, that that sometimes the connection with the women are it's a little different. They they get attached a little earlier. That's just my experience, but
Right.
that's
Yeah,
that's all I'll say. I'm not trying to get. Oh, don't say that. I just don't want to get canceled, so I won't say anything more than that.
Right. No, I hear you. I think you're making the right call. So yeah, she actually says his name's Adam, but he doesn't know the last name. She doesn't tell him that. So that's a good little tease in the show. But if she said Disiato, he would have flipped out, I think. He wouldn't have reacted well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he probably would have snapped, but yeah, I mean, it is for a viewer, it's a nice little tease, like you said, like knowing that who he really is. And yeah, I just think there's a lot that could happen with this because, with this connection now, is it going to be like, oh, dad, don't kill him, I love him, or is it going to be like, yeah, I'll take his imprint off this earth, father? Could go either way to me. That's what I see.
Yeah. So the judge goes for a run and he gets an Uber from this guy named Trevor. And they talk about fishing and how Trevor really wants a boat. And that's important. But he leaves a phone in the Uber. So he gets dropped off. He calls the phone. A woman in the backseat hands it to Trevor and he says, Trevor, I know you're blackmailing me. Meet me at the wharf tomorrow, 2:00. So I just didn't think this was necessary. Like I said, I just found it, when I see characters, I want to feel attached to them. Like you want to feel something. This Trevor character is just this
Right.
Uber driver who likes to fish. I know nothing more about him. And so they go to the wharf and the judge is there and we find out that he's actually financed a boat to give to Trevor, and he'll continue to give him little gifts for his silence. And they made a deal together.
Yeah, it's the perfect deal when you think about it, because if he would have gave him the boat, or if he would have gave him the cash right away, well, who's to say that Trevor doesn't come back and sniff him on the ass?
Right.
But in this way, by financing the boat, well, Trevor needs to keep his mouth shut in order to keep the boat, essentially, or else the boat would be repoed or whatnot. So it's a smart play by the judge, obviously, but I mean it's worthless, and it's and you almost feel that he's kind of smug about it. He's kind of like, okay, like I got this son of a bitch, like this is another one of my problems I kind of squashed, but really doesn't mean much within the next like 2 or 3 minutes of the show.
Yeah. So they're walking back to the car, I think, just to settle things or grab the keys or something along those lines. And out,
Paperwork, yeah.
yeah, out from behind these two boats pop Jimmy and his redheaded goon. They knock Trevor to the ground. They grab the judge and they bring them into this. They bring him into a garage, and they basically they ask the judge and they say, "We know you did it. I know you killed my son, and I'm going to kill you right here, right now." And judge is pleading with himself. They he doesn't know what to do. Like he's clearly freaking out. He knows he's about to die, and he's trying to tell Jimmy he didn't do it. He didn't do it. But he's like, I know you were there. I know you're lying. You're covering it up.
Mm-hmm.
And before they can pull the trigger, the judge has one last Hail Mary. And he says, you can't kill me because you need me in the courtroom because Carlo's about to be arrested for the murder of Kofi Jones. I'll be the judge and I'll let him off if you let me live. And
yeah,
this is really where the show takes a turn, where the judge has been a liar before. This is such a lie. I mean, being a judge, your one thing is to uphold the law, and he's doing the exact opposite of that with his statement here.
yeah, and I mean, obviously, we're not deep enough to know that it's going to fall through, but even just the thought, like you said, it's kind of like it's the grand lie of all lies, letting murders go when they shouldn't be, and kind of almost to me, it's making a deal with the devil in the sense that he's got to make this deal with Jimmy, or else he's going to eat it. But yeah, no, it's crazy to think about, and I think he gets a Lee Delamere right before he's about to make this deal with Trevor. So basically, like whatever it was, 10 minutes before, he could have been dead if he didn't answer the call, but he was lucky enough to answer it. I thought that was extremely like fortunate of him. But yeah, I mean, it's going to make for an exciting next couple episodes.
Yeah. So the episode ends with basically them in there. They take the gun off him because we don't know what's going to happen, but they still don't know that Adam's the killer. And the judge obviously is not going to rat out his son, but now he's stuck between a rock and a hard place because he's going to have to lie in the stand with Lee probably being the lawyer that's representing Kofi. I mean, this is just a mess.
Yeah, it's looking worse and worse. it's worth, and the final thing that happens in the episode, they drag Trevor in there, and I wouldn't say an innocent bystander. He's a worm, if anything. But they look at him and they say, Jamie looks at him and just says, how much does he know? And the judge looks at them. He's like, oh, he knows everything. Like, can't be trusted. And it's a gutless. It's like, that's, I think, when I really I started to see him more as a villain than as an antagonist, I guess, because that and obviously they kill him right in front of him. And I think that's kind of them flexing their muscles and we'll take you out, no problem, if we have to.
Yeah, that might be why they had him come, just to see them kill somebody, just to prove it to the judge. But, I think if they took him at his house and the same thing happened, we would have had the same effect, Or, I don't want to see an animal die, but if they killed Django, I think that could be a similar. I'm glad they didn't, but because I'd much rather lose Trevor than fucking Django. But yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say, there's twice that in these 2 episodes, both times you could have thought Django was dead. Once by by I think kidney failure, they said at the vet, and the second by just Jimmy being there. So I think it was nice to see that they spared the dog, but they think it's spare old Trevor, who's not with us anymore.
No, he's no longer. He's fishing somewhere else.
Yeah, he's fishing up in heaven.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, it doesn't.
Go on.
I was just gonna say the judge gets to keep the boat if he wants it.
That's true. Yeah, he can learn how to deep sea fish. Maybe he can take Jimmy.
We'll see.
But yeah, that wraps up episode 6. It was a lot going on. So we suspect going into episode 7, Carlo will be arrested. Maybe they might. I could see them starting the episode with him being, maybe sentenced or something. But one thing I'm kind of pondering is, how can the judge guarantee that he'll be on the stand, like that he'll be the judge over?
That's what I thought too, Dougie. I was just thinking, well, I feel like where he is a connection to Kofi and the stolen vehicle, I feel like it's just too, it just feels too like he has emotional connection almost, I guess,
conflict of interest,
where they wouldn't let him. Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be interesting because he's obviously going to have to weasel himself into this as well as amongst amongst everything else that he's got himself into.
Yeah, plus with Lee as the lawyer who he's got, attraction / a relationship with. But I kind of hope they go into that on the show. I hope that's a major plot line of episode 7 of how he weasels himself into it, because I think that'd be really interesting to me personally, if it could actually happen.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel the same way. So for you, a fan of episode 5, just not as much so for episode 6.
No, and hopefully this is just a blip for me. I hope they don't take, more storylines that go kind of off course. I think they have a lot of good material here. With Eugene, where's that going to go now that, where's he going to go with Desire? Carlo being in prison again. You got, the judge obviously representing him. Adam and Fia, where's that going to go? Possibly Franny, does she come back into the mix? His grandmother, does she come back into the show? I think she could do some damage here. A lot of stuff can happen here, and obviously, with the judge, I'm sure a lot will still happen to him. So a lot of different places the show can go.
Yeah, I wrote this down last week to tell, and I mean, not to tell, I guess, but just my observation. It feels like a mix of shows sometimes. You got a lot different things going on, and some are more subtle than others. I thought it felt like a mixture of Defending Jacob, which is the Chris Evans show, where he's a lawyer defending his son who's on trial for murder.
Right.
A Teacher, which is basically just a show about a teacher and having an affair with one of her students. I said Sopranos just because, I mean, you have all this kind of mafia, like mob boss stuff going on as well.
Right.
Law and Order, because I mean, it's clearly, it has a lot to take with, the judge and stuff being on trial. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of feels like a jumble of all those things, shows together at the same time for me. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it though. I mean, I don't think I critiqued it quite as hard as you for episode 6. Like, I see where you say that there's no emotional character or emotional draw to Trevor because, other than the fact that he was there in the first episode, there really wasn't a whole lot going on with him. But yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought it was a good episode.
Yeah, I'm just tough, it didn't give me. I didn't hate it like James Cameron movies, like I hate them, but it was just a slight hate. It was just a slight dislike.
Oh, right on,
It
right
wasn't. It
on, right
wasn't
on.
Titanic or Avatar hate.
Oof, I know you don't like the Avatar.
Oh God.
It's a high quality movie, man. The blue
I mean,
people. I think they're making an Avatar 2.
oh, they're making
Avatar
about
2 coming
four. They're
out.
making about four in the next 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, that's gonna be tough to pull, but I mean, I like to see him get some money.
I mean, to be honest, it's not that hard to make bad movies. Just ask James Cameron.
No. Yeah.
Or Dawson Warman.
You're throwing a buddy under the bus now. Jeez. I will say though, Dawson, if you ever listen to this, some of your movie choices are questionable. Mudbound was a questionable movie choice, and I think we had the right to rip you on that one.
Yeah, I'll never get that time back. Yeah,
that hour and a half of your life is just gone forever.
That was tough. But no. So next week we'll be back. Recap episode 7, episode 8. We'll see a lot. Like we said, a lot of different places the show can go. So interesting to see where they venture. But rest of the week, what do you got on the docket, Shay?
Oh, for the rest of the week, just busy with work and a lot of hockey last night. Obviously didn't get to watch any because I'm not staying up to watch Ottawa and Vancouver, but probably get to watch a little bit of Leafs tonight. No football on the weekends anymore, so you gotta consume my time somehow. This weekend though, I started to watch 2 shows. And I want to go into depth about one show though. I started watching The Wire, which for anyone out there looking for like kind of a groovy, I would say kind of cop slash I don't know, it's like it's got a gang affiliation a little bit too at the same time, but I've enjoyed it thoroughly so far. I'm 3 or 4 episodes deep into that. But the other show I want to talk about quickly was just called, it's actually a cartoon, and you're gonna think I'm kind of childish, but it's called Over the Garden Wall, and it's an Emmy-winning cartoon that features Elijah Wood. For people who don't know, it's Frodo from Lord of the Rings, and it's really, really good. And I don't praise, I don't go looking for this kind of stuff, but I saw the ratings online, and I thought, what the heck, like just to consume some time, we're just going to be inside anyways. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So everyone out there looking for something a little lighthearted but still dark at the same time, go check this out. It was a pretty good watch. I think even you would like it, Juggy.
All right. Well, I'll mark it down. I'll watch an episode. I'll see.
Right.
No,
Netflix.
I got no problem with Frodo. I like Samwise a little bit better. But no problems with Frodo.
Yeah.
Samwise the Brave for the win. But no, Elijah Wood, good actor. So I'll definitely check that out. But no, everybody, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us tonight. A lot more coming this week with lots of hockey, prepping for the Super Bowl. Actually, the aforementioned Dawson Warman is actually going to join me for the first time on the podcast this Saturday.
What are you guys talking about?
He wanted to talk about the major award winners in the NHL. So we're gonna give our predictions for the likes of the Rocket Richard, the Art Ross, the Vezina Trophy. So
okay, nice.
We're gonna give our opinions there, and I'll be fun to get to talk to Dawson. So I'm gonna do that Saturday. I may have a UFC pay-per-view next week with our friend Brody Terrio.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Conor McGregor getting knocked out this past weekend, where the lightweight division goes, some pay-per-views coming up. So a lot of fun conversations upcoming. And of course, we'll be back next Tuesday as always. But Shamus, have a great week. And everybody out there listening, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.